Action!
Thanks for staying, everybody. This is the last speech of my public speaking class at CTC. We had to pick a topic that was controversial in today's world, so I chose women in combat roles in the military because that's something that I personally have some experience with. Some people are surprised by my position because I do not believe that women should be in combat MOSs. For those of you that don't know about the military, the Army calls our job titles MOSs. Things like infantry, armor, cavalry, frontline stuff where people see a lot of stuff that just isn't all that friendly. So, I served in the Army National Guard in Wisconsin and on active duty for 9 years as a medic. I did 2 tours in Iraq and I saw more combat than I ever really planned to. I do believe that women are capable of doing many things and playing many different roles vital in our military. And I'm not saying that we should all be barefoot pregnant in the kitchen again. That's not it at all. What I do know is that women can pose a distraction in many situations. We're physically built differently than men, and we have different emotional responses to situations. It's not a bad or a good thing, it's just a fact. There's been many studies done throughout the years, and when the concept of fully integrating combat MOSs really became an issue the past few years, more studies were done. New York Times quoted our Defense Secretary Carter saying that we were going through a historic transition. The Pentagon would open all combat jobs to women. There would be no exceptions. To that end, I'll provide some pros and cons to the subject. So, beginning with women are built differently. People who are in support of women being in combat armed MOSs would say that if an applicant is qualified for the job, why can't they have it? Gender shouldn't be arbitrary. It shouldn't be an issue. They can calibrate training and different standards so that women are able to do the jobs of men while making the standards different. That seems to defeat the purpose, if you ask me. In my opinion, I would agree with a quote by one of the physical scientists who did a military study with the Marines for several years, Paul Davis, who said that humping a 100-pound man isn't easy for anybody. And I know it sure isn't for men. I don't know many women that could do it. And that's a basic infantry standard. You have to be able to carry the man on your left, the man on your right. If you can't do that, you don't belong there. Consequently, we consider the role of women's emotions. Some would say that recent conflicts have demonstrated the military needs women on the battlefield because of their creativity, their instincts, and their empathy, qualities that their male counterparts don't always demonstrate. This is true. Special forces in Afghanistan have embedded all military female personnel into cultural teams who are able to reach parts of the population that were previously inaccessible because of their sex. Yes, there is a place for women in mission important roles. However, people who share my opinion would say that over time, the longevity and all of the multiple missions do lead to attrition and lots of medical issues, and that's for men and women. But significant stats have shown that women are more highly affected by their environment in combat. This would include a Captain Katie Petroni of the U.S. Marines who served in Iraq and Afghanistan. She brings the point to light again. I would appeal to those who are for this. Are we concerned for the women because they can do it or because they should? Many women in the military share my beliefs that just because we are capable of doing it doesn't mean that it's something that we should be doing. William Dempsey, who also shared an article for this argument, would say that women in direct combat has nothing to do with courage, skill, or patriotism, or dedication, more so that it can affect the men around them in a detrimental manner. Mr. Carter, Defense Secretary, acknowledged the opening of these positions doesn't fully integrate our military. So there have been many test cases, and you've seen some of them in the news, Women have gone through officer basic school at Fort Benning, Georgia. There are women who are trying out for special forces, for SEALs training, for Ranger school, and some of them are making it through the training with the same standards as men. We're not saying that women can't do it. We're just trying to establish a premise for why they should. Finally, the number one mission essential thing to remember, always mission first. You learn it in basic, you learn it when you go to your units, you learn it when you deploy. Ultimately, it doesn't matter who the person is to your left or your right, if it's a girl or a guy, if it's somebody's mom, if it's somebody's son, mission comes first. We're bodies. And ultimately, people on the home front are not emotionally and physically prepared for the loss of mothers, daughters, wives. It's just something that we're not raised to be accustomed to. Some of that has changed over time, and the more women have been in combat through the last 10-year conflict, the more normal it has become. I trust that I have provided some information that you might not have been aware of, and at least given you something to consider. I cannot imagine being the parent of a young girl who, for me, would serve with my son on the front lines. Having been there, having seen the things that our soldiers, our Marines, our airmen are exposed to, it's just not something that I think should be a requirement for women to do. Not to mention, all you guys that signed your draft cards, it could happen. Your daughters in the future could have to do that. I don't know that many men that support it, and I also don't know that many women in the military that support the idea either. Thanks for listening to my speech.